Hello, and welcome to the Brightside Live. I'm Michele Katz. I'm the founder of the Plus One Adoption Foundation. Our mission is essentially to close the gap between wanting parents and waiting kids. So we're going to focus today on, in part, on older kids. We have been talking a little bit about the adoption of older kids, and older kids can be, 5 years old. It also could be 15. So we have a special guest on today's Brightside Live, and I'm going to invite him now. His name is Thom, Thom, and he's going to be joining us talking about his experience. He has fostered 7 kids of his own. So that invite has gone out. I hope he'll be joining us soon. But in the meantime, I get to talk about him. Really incredible human being, Thom Van Dycke. His day job, actually, there he is. That was so quick. I love it. I was just going to talk to a little bit about what you do for a living. But since you're here, why don't you just tell us briefly what you do? And then we're going to backtrack and go
Okay,
into the adoption side of your life.
sounds good. Thanks for having me, by the way, Michelle. This is
It's,
really fun.
it's a pleasure to see you.
Yeah. So I was a pastor for 19 years, and then 5 years ago, I transitioned out of ministry into business. And so I'm a business advisor for small businesses that are looking to grow. And I look at various domains of growth, and I've got clients kind of all over the world. It's a lot of fun. We look at marketing, sales, strategic positioning, and then scaling tactics as well.
And you're sitting in Canada, right?
Correct. In very chilly Canada. It's -6 Fahrenheit today.
-6 Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
So, I'm in snowy Chicago, and
Right.
often it gets too cold to snow. I have to explain that to people.
Oh yeah.
And we're about 15 Fahrenheit. We're in the teens, I think, today. So,
Oh,
and
good.
you can
I
see in
mean,
my back window, it's pretty great. It's pretty
it's
great.
pretty balmy compared to here.
Exactly. That's so true. It's all relative, right?
Yeah.
So let's go back in time. How did
Yeah.
you initially get into the adoption space?
So in 2011, Manitoba, Canada, the US has a foster care crisis. And uh at the time at that time there weren't enough beds available in Manitoba, so they were sending kids who were taken into care into hotels. And specifically, they were sending teens and infants into hotels. And like, we're not a huge province. We only have 1.7 million people at any given time. We've got about 12,000 kids in foster care, but we would get up to, I think it peaked at about 80 kids in a hotel overnight. And it was horrendous. And anytime you read in the news something bad has happened to somebody in foster care, always one of those kids, always. And there was a girl in my youth group, and by the way, I have permission to share her story. She's 30 now. She knows that I share it as part of our journey. Um, and she was 14 at the time, and I knew her social worker very well. I had worked with her family quite a bit to support them. And I just went to her social worker and I said, look, if it comes to it, please don't send her to a hotel in Winnipeg. Call us in an emergency. And 6 months later, he called and he said, you remember that thing you said? And I said, what thing? and then and so then he said, well, we have to unfortunately intervene in the family, and we need a place for her. And so an emergency placement over a weekend turned into our forever daughter, who became our
Wow.
oldest child. We had a
Okay.
10 and 4-year-old at the time. She turned 15 right after or right before she moved in with us. um, and so she became our oldest, and she's still our oldest. And you know
So I want to ask you about the existing children at that time. Were
yeah.
they bio babies? Were they
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah. So
So
we have two biological kids.
okay, and those are the two.
Yep, those are the
Okay.
two.
So they're the first two.
Yeah.
Then you adopt an older child. She was
Right.
at this time 14,
15.
15.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so it's interesting because and we've talked about my adoption story where we adopted an infant as our first child. and we adopted an 8-year-old as our last child, and I carried the two in between. So that's our family
Okay.
of four. Very small family, relatively speaking. So we not only were we dealing with, a new child entering our family, but also the kind of displacement of kids. I mean, you had an older child, like you had the
Yeah.
eldest who now became a middle, and we had a youngest who became a middle.
Right.
So I want to lean in into that, and how was that for those that may be considering kind of this like a out of order. I don't know if
Yeah.
that, tell us, how was that for you, for family?
Tough. It was
Yeah,
tough.
okay.
It was tough for a few reasons. I mean, I'd worked with students for already 10 years at that time. So I wasn't new working with students and at risk students, but when it's your family and your home, it's a very different story. Now, Katie, and she doesn't mind if I use her name. So Katie, uh I mean, she was awesome. Like, there were regular teenage things. The real shock was this, when you raise a child from birth into teenage years, those teenage years can be tough. But you've had this trajectory where you've brought them up. We
Mhm.
didn't have that advantage. So we were figuring out parenting a 15-year-old on the fly. We had no training at that point for foster care. So we were figuring that out. Now, our youngest son, Seth, he was 4.5 at the time. He was just immediately enamored. I mean, by 2 days later at church, he was telling everybody, "This is my new sister." Like, he was just so excited.
Mhm.
And but our middle son, who became our middle son, Malachi, it was really tough for him. And there was a certain degree of grief that he went through, because, interestingly enough, like, I'm a youngest child of four, so I would never have pictured this. I didn't relate to it. But he told us later, like, he realized, I'm not going to be the first kid to get my driver's license. I'm not going to be the first one to get married. I'm not going to be the first one to graduate. Like, he thought that all through,
Mhm.
you know, and it was tough. And I think it affected him more than well, certainly more than we realized at the time, maybe more than we realize now. Now, he did tell me he's 23 now, has a child of his own, he's married, so has a successful construction company already. And in summer, or in fall, him and I were celebrating the birth of his son, and we had a private moment. And he said, Dad, I think one of the reasons I've done really well in construction is because his former boss gave him a good start. But also, he said, because you and mom were foster parents,
Mhm.
and it taught me how to deal with challenging people and gave me people skills that I don't think many
Mhm.
people have. So his perspective now is gratitude. In fact, he and
Mhm.
his wife are thinking through, is that the road they want to take for their life? So, but at the time, difficult. It was
Yeah,
really difficult.
and
Yeah.
navigating those really valid feelings, right?
Totally.
So and just hearing what he had to say, how did that? I mean, I think he still was the first married one in the family, if that's any
Yep.
consolation. I didn't hear you mention that Katie was,
Well,
so he
Katie,
still was able to come on
that's
top.
that's a challenging, different story.
Okay. Well, in any event, you know,
Yeah.
hearing what your kids are
Yeah.
saying, right? And not going, oh, you'll grow out of it, but actually like sitting with them. It's like valid feelings. How do you go
Yes.
about like addressing that when they are that young, tender age?
I think you just invite it. I remember Karen Purvis, she's passed away now, but she was the director of the Child Development Institute at TCU down in Dallas Fort Worth,
Mm.
and she has incredible material. So if you haven't accessed trust-based relational intervention, TBRI, that stuff is incredible. And I was down there for some training, and she talked about the guilt she felt as a foster parent, and asking her adult children whether she had failed them.
Mm.
And they had said, "Mom, oh no, no, that's not the way we see it." And I've asked my kids that too. They've sacrificed more because of the life that we chose for our family. But those conversations only really happened when they were older. Um, uh, I mean, Malachi is a very talkative, outgoing person. But we just didn't know. Maybe my wife did more. He probably talked to Tara more than me, quite frankly, which is probably not uncommon. But yeah, so she probably knew. I can tell you a really sweet story though. So we grew up in a faith home, and we had been told that we've had many foster kids since then. We've had 30 total, and we were told that we would raise three boys, and they stayed with us for 30 months, and then they went back to mom and dad, and it was the
It's a long
hardest.
time. 30
It was,
months.
yeah, it was the hardest
Mm,
time in our lives, probably close.
mm.
And about a year later, I walked into Seth's bedroom, and he was maybe, oh, I don't know, 10 at the time, somewhere around there. And he was journaling. He had a little journal, and he was crying and just weeping. And I said, "You have to get ready for school." And I looked at him, and oh, he's just weeping. He had been journaling before school. And he said, "Did we do enough? Did we pray enough? Why did you take the boys away from us?" Like he was praying, he was writing down some prayers to God. And we acknowledged those feelings, you know, because it was
There
so
was
apparent.
loss.
There
He
was,
was grieving that loss.
yeah. So we had those moments, and we talk about, in our family, we talk about the privilege of a broken heart. It is our privilege as a foster family, foster parents and foster siblings, adoptive siblings, to carry a broken heart when we have to say goodbye or when challenges come up, because every child in the world deserves to have a parent who cries over them.
I was
So
reading an article recently and it was talking about being grateful even for the hard moments. Being grateful. So it's along those lines. I love that.
absolutely, yeah,
Well, I want to hear about the additional children and weave
yeah,
in the fostering with them. So right now you've got the
7,
Katie. Well, now you do, but I'm saying if we
yeah,
go back in time, so you
okay,
had the
yeah,
three, okay?
yeah,
Katie and was it
Malachi and Seth.
Malachi and then Seth? Okay. So then what happened?
Well, Katie was 18, and we refused to believe in such a thing as aging out of foster care. So we adopted her, but it was more informal. The
Okay.
kids that we've adopted now is more formal. Uh, and she was aging out, which is a ridiculous idea that you get too old for your family.
Hmm.
So she continued to live with us until she was 19, and then she moved out, joined some programs, and and then moved out on her own. It was great. And we built a bigger house specifically so that we could take in more kids. And we made the decision, we'll take in one. If they have a sibling, we'll consider that, but they have to be younger than Seth now. Um, and then we were asked, not offered, sounds terrible. We were asked to be parents to these twin boys. They were 9 months old. And we said yes. And then 3 months later, their brother joined them because he had burned through a foster home. He was 3 years old and was busting down baby gates, and they couldn't control him. He'd sit under the table and growl at them, and he was another level. And those
Yeah.
were the three boys who lived with us for almost 3 years.
Okay.
Um, and that was like the learning time because we had never dealt with um, angry parents that were angry to that degree, the foster system having to be very, very closely connected, like social workers actively involved all the time. Um, it was really tough. And when the 3-year-old moved in with us, we didn't date for 8 months. And you have to understand, for we've been married for 25 years this year. For 26 years, except for that 8 months period, we've had a date once a week every Tuesday night. Tuesday
Amazing.
night date.
We also do date night,
Yeah.
one night a week for sure. One night a week.
Right. So when that stopped, something serious was happening. And
I could just imagine.
oh, it was terrible. And then we got trained in this thing called TBRI, and it revolutionized our lives.
Ooh, tell us
It
more about that.
completely, and I've since become a practitioner in TBRI. It stands for Trust-Based Relational Intervention.
Mm.
It's
Hmm.
just good parenting. I've literally trained thousands of parents in it now. I've trained all of the school guidance counselors in our school division. I've trained most of the social workers in our agency in TBRI. So it really opened up doors for me, to have a great impact in the community, for which I'm very grateful. And but it's simple. We were so overwhelmed and so tired, but we convinced my parents to take our kids for the weekend. We went to Winnipeg and took in this little. We were a simulcast site. We were watching on video with other foster parents. It was and adoptive parents, and it was validating and empowering. And we came home and did four things. And you have to understand the then yeah the 3-year old 3.5, he was on 20-minute timeouts because we did not have a strategy for this kind of behavior. Like we had nothing. After implementing four things, we eliminated 80% of his timeout behavior.
Incredible.
80%, because most of the behavior that you're dealing with is not a reflection of who your child is. It's a reflection of your parenting strategy. And so it was simple things like get there in the first 60 seconds, as opposed to seeing if things are going to resolve on their own, you know, or connect before you correct. Um, Come in with playful interaction instead of consequences.
Mm.
And it felt miraculous. That's how powerful it was. Um, and and so that was really a turning point for us um, in our lives. And that's when we began to really resource other foster families, because the church I went to, we had 110 foster families. So we had 1,500 students on the weekend, grade 8 and down. Almost 20% of them were foster or adopted.
Mm.
Crazy. And I was the first senior staff member to be in the foster care system. So it kind of fell on my shoulders. And to figure out, now that we know these numbers, what do we do? And so we started programs, and lots of people, didn't matter if they were in the church or not, lots of people started coming to these programs to learn more about foster care.
Did they
Then the
also
three,
get the
yeah,
training that you got
yeah, yeah.
just to
Because
help, to help
yeah,
and are there people that kind of dabble, like stick their toe into foster care? It's just like, okay, well, we can take these kids for the weekend, like for these emergency cases.
yeah. Although it's hard because the requirements for that
You need a
are pretty.
license, right? You need a
Yeah,
foster
yeah.
license, and okay.
We we didn't for almost 10 months. That's because a social worker, literally on their word, can designate you a place of safety.
Mm.
Um, and so we were designated a place of safety for Katie. And then got her home study in spring, like 6 months. It was kind of
Like
wild.
backwards. You're like doing this
Backwards.
backwards.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
But there was a need, there was an emergency, and there was
yeah.
obviously close, and there was trust in both
Right,
directions to allow
right.
that.
Exactly, exactly. And so, but the majority of people don't do that. It's unless you're a family member, like if you're an
Like
auntie or yeah,
kinship
exactly, yeah,
situation.
yeah.
How
So
old is the 3.5-year old? How old is he now?
he is, I think, in ninth grade, so 15.
Okay.
We don't live in a huge community, but I haven't actually seen them since they left.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Um, I don't think I can. I don't understand fully the level of trauma that caused us.
Okay.
Uh, it's really painful for me to even imagine running into them in the mall or whatever. Uh,
Were they adopted or did they go back to
no,
biological
they
family?
went to
Okay.
biological family, which
Okay.
is ideal.
Yeah.
And I won't comment on how like whether I feel it was appropriate or not. Like for us, it was just painful
Yeah.
because those were our boys. We were told they would stay. We were told they would stay with us, and it just didn't work out.
Hmm.
The vast majority of the children that we've welcomed into our home have gone back home
Hmm.
because you have a mom who's overwhelmed, or somebody loses their home, or we had one little boy whose mom was addicted to meth, and she cleaned herself up. Well, you celebrate that when that happens,
Right.
you know
Right.
and she's doing well. Like she still is doing well. So, and she's actually remained in touch with us.
Hmm.
That's something
I'm
we've
sure
really
she's
worked.
grateful.
Actually, she is. Yeah, we were invited to birthday parties, and yeah, it's been really special.
How long was that child with you?
About 9 months. It was less than a
Okay.
year.
Yeah.
Um, but we were told we would raise him as well because they said, look, she's a meth addict. We don't really have a lot of hope that she's going to be able to reform herself. And she did.
Well, there's
So
a lot of relapse, so they're looking at statistics probably,
totally. Yeah.
so I can understand that. But that's what I mean, how wonderful that she was
Yeah.
able to recover. Um,
Totally.
so then, I mean, at some point you added four children or
Right.
like two that did actually end up staying with you
Right.
permanently, and you did all the adoption
Yeah.
legal stuff. So at what point did those children enter your life?
So after the three boys left, we took a period of time off, and then we joined what's called an emergency team. So we were the new hotels.
Okay.
Um, and we were essentially licensed to keep room open. Um, and so we welcomed, oh gosh, how many after that? I guess 26 kids through that program. And the kids that there wasn't a permanent plan for, they couldn't be reunited, they just stayed with us. And our a few of them left our house and went into foster care, other foster homes long term. But for the most part, if they couldn't go home, they just stayed with us. And we were really clear with Child and Family Services that once a child is in our home, they're our child. We don't see them differently as much as possible. We understand the legality, we understand the complexity of what's going on, but they're our child. And the only person that can change that is you, social worker. And so if they made a plan then and it worked out, great. But we still cried. We cried
Of
over every
course.
child, even if just a couple of them stayed for one night. Um,
Mhm.
but it was out of that group that these precious kids came to live with us. So we've got four adopted now. One that's not technically adopted yet. We're going to be working on it, but three that are formally legally adopted.
Okay, so we know the first three. How old are
The littles,
how old were the other four, right? That
yeah.
came when they first came to you, and how old are they now?
They were all very young, so preschool age.
Okay.
A couple came basically from birth. Um, in one case, we had a relationship with the parents, and so that's how that worked out. But now they are uh, all younger than 13, so between 13 and kindergarten. I'm going to be a little bit vague.
It's
Okay.
a good thing you built that addition onto the house.
Yes, you're not kidding. We have kids. Yeah. There's
There's like kids everywhere.
they are everywhere, and it's a loud, noisy house with lots of big emotions, including a ton of laughter, like just
Okay,
a
good.
ton of
That's
laughter.
beautiful. And
Yeah,
date night is holding strong.
it's holding strong. Malachi, when he was a young adult, committed to helping us get away on date night. And now that
Mm.
he's married and has a little boy, it's a little harder for him. So now Seth is in university. He helps us every week. He says one night for sure he'll take the kids to make sure that they're okay.
Amazing and nice to
Yeah,
have inside help. You
yeah.
don't have to
Oh,
pay the inside help. There's so many years when
well,
I
we
think of
do,
babysitters. Oh, you do, but it's
we
probably a good
do.
rate.
We we we
Hopefully.
we pay them. We pay them well because, first of all, uh, well, partly because we can, and
Great. Yeah,
and if we
so
can
it's
if we can
okay.
help them out, and we're
Yes.
grateful. And um, when they were in foster care, there was a stipends for care. Now that they're adopted, it's our stipends.
Right. Yes, exactly. So and for Seth and Malachi, now they're older. Malachi, you said, has a child of his own.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
that's
know, it's crazy.
so, yeah. So it goes fast, as they say, right? And
It
yet you
does go
still do
fast.
have, I mean, you're still living it. You've got like a lot of teenagers around, right?
I
So,
Yeah. Well, one teen and three preteens. So
yes. So, I mean,
um,
I'm telling you that preteens are teens now. I mean, if you
It's
haven't
true.
noticed.
It's
Um,
true.
and I know that because that's kind of where we're at,
Right.
with a lot of teens. So, and they now seem to reflect back, and Katie too. I'd be interested, if you can share her perspective now of being, she was 15 and joining your family and becoming the oldest. I mean, did she
Yeah.
take on that kind of older child, that typical, like those attributes? And I don't know
I,
if she has prior, siblings in her prior
she did.
adoption.
Yeah, she
Okay.
does. Um, and to a varying, she's connected with them to varying degrees depending on what's going on.
Mhm.
Um, you know, did she was not the youngest, she was not the oldest in her family. Did she become an oldest sister? Um,
I mean, in
she was,
your family, she did.
yeah, yeah,
So,
she did. She was in charge of the house
yeah. So she
in
did
her,
take on that role. It's interesting. She ended up taking
yeah.
on that role when she wasn't an eldest child prior.
Right. Right.
Hmm.
Yeah, she did. And she took, but I mean, even in her bio home, she was the one who took care of the home. So she was parentified, is what they say.
Hmm.
Where she was even sort of taking care of her mom, as the adult, acting like more mature than the caregiver. So, but you know what? We've had conversations about, whether they would. I think that, she and her partner would be open to, um, the conversation. I don't know if I can really speak for her. What I can tell you is, as a dad, so proud of her. So unbelievably proud of my daughter. She works at a bank, but she's worked at a lawyer's office. She's well respected. Um, she holds a job. She is, I'm just so proud of the woman that she's become, and increasingly just wise also. Um, you know, we adore her. She and her boyfriend are coming over on Sunday. Looking forward to seeing them. So all of
Family
us will be
time.
together. Family
I
time,
mean,
exactly.
it's family time,
Yeah,
which is so beautiful. So, we're kind of concluding now, which is crazy because I feel like we just got started in this conversation. But you had mentioned that, that just the need is so great.
yeah,
Um, in your area, like where you
right.
are in Manitoba, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So like over the years, have you seen it kind of settle down, or is it really just the same, or is it even bigger now, the
Um,
need?
I think the number of kids in care has grown. Um, the most shocking statistic to me, I read it in an article in our Winnipeg Free Press, in the main newspaper for Manitoba. In 2008, they ran a story, and they looked at the number of former foster kids who were in our provincial jails. And among the non-Indigenous population, it was around 68%, almost 70%. Among the Indigenous population, which is the majority of our inmates, it was 88%. So that means that if you walk through any of our jails, a, only one out of every 10 Indigenous inmates was not in foster care. It is a crisis that is so profound. It is absolutely so profound. Um, oh, my son just joined. Hi, Seth.
When you were done, I was gonna give a shout out to Seth.
Yep.
Hey.
I'm done talking about you. But
Or are you?
you know, the it has not gotten better because we don't know how to heal the trauma of racism and injustice. And I think that there's an appetite in Manitoba. We have our first Indigenous premier, who I think is great. Um, but the injustices towards the First Nations and Indigenous people in Canada is really, really profound. And in Manitoba, 90% of the 12,000 kids in care are Indigenous. So there is a systemic challenge that is, I mean, it is profound, and the poverty is profound.
Mm.
So, no, it's not changing. It's not changing fast enough. Um, my view has always been, you look at how much it costs to keep an inmate. Maybe it's between $80,000 and $150,000 a year to keep one inmate in a prison. What if we invested that in our early young foster children? How much money? You talk to governments, you got to talk money. How
Hmm.
much money could we save if we invested it in supporting at-risk families as opposed to waiting until they're
Hmm.
incarcerated? No, it's not, it hasn't changed. Someday I'll be out there more of an advocate again. Right now, I'm taking care of my family.
Well,
Yeah,
understandable. You got tweens and teens.
it's
So,
true.
as we conclude, what's like one message you hope families who are listening, and you're really inspirational, Tom, and what you and your wife have done. What do you hope that families take away, or people who are considering adoption, or are in it and
Yeah,
in fostering in one way or other? What do you want them to take away from today's conversation?
never live in fear. It is completely unhelpful. And in fact, we often think that hate is the opposite of love. I think actually fear is the opposite of love.
Mm.
Fear never provides the kind of nurture that a child needs or the kind of nurture that our own soul needs. So, finding a way to work through your own fears is going to be the best gift you can give yourself and give your children. That would be one thing. Never be afraid of having your heart broken. This is life. It's very, very hard. Life is not it's just not easy. And so don't be afraid of that. Embrace it, in fact, and be honored that you get to be part of a journey. But do not do something because your heartstrings are tugged. Go into whatever you do. You're dealing with souls, human beings, little souls. They need parents who are well equipped, who are healthy, who know where to go for resources. That's what they need. And so yes, go. We need more families. We have many, many children who need help right now. Many families who need help. Um, but go into it with your eyes open, not afraid, with a lot of hope.
Thank you for sharing all
Yeah.
of that. Those are wise and inspirational words. I think a lot of people will be very interested in the training that
Hmm.
you received that made all the difference. I think if anyone wants to reach out to you, would you be
Oh yeah,
okay?
absolutely. I don't check Instagram terribly often. I had to quickly download the app this
Well
morning.
done, because you like got on like this, like you were a tech wizard.
I ran in from another meeting downloading the app. But yeah, you can message me on Instagram. I'll keep the app for a little bit so that I watch it. But also my email address is thomvanddyke, Tom@tomvandyke.com. By all
Yeah, like
means.
I asked you, I'm like, are you related to Dick Van Dyke? I mean, I
No,
never
that'd be
met.
cool though.
That would be cool. But anyway, for those, and when I was starting to introduce you, I said, this is Tom, Thom,
Right.
actually. So, um, thank you so much for your time and for sharing about your life experience, and sharing your children with us, those that you fostered and those that became a permanent addition to the Van Dyke family.
Right.
We really appreciate it. And for those that maybe couldn't, you know, check us out live, no worries, because we always save this to the grid of Plus One Adoption Foundation. Share it with someone you know. Make that your goal today, is to share it with someone who will also benefit from your life experience, and reach out to Tom, Thom, if you have specific questions. So thank you for joining. Don't delete Instagram. Just let it hang out so you can check out the other lives, and there may be some great connections for you for people
Absolutely.
that I have interviewed. I think we're in our fourth year
Wow.
or so of these interviews, and every one adds such an important benefit for those that are considering foster adoption, people maybe post placement and need a community, and we are here.
Yeah.
Plus One Adoption Foundation. Thank you, Thom, for joining the Brightside Live.
Thank you for having me.